Awesome. It looks like we got everyone joined us today. So I want to welcome everyone. My name is Stuart Blumenthal with ETHOSystems. What we're going to be talking about today is ACH and how to set this up within Sage Intacct. This is one of those things that more and more companies are moving away from those checks, and especially if you're in the middle of an implementation, this is the best time to switch from check to ACH for those vendors. Most vendors nowadays love to get paid, especially in the construction world, love to get paid from ACH because it's quicker and they don't have to go to the bank. It just makes life a lot easier. So we're going to be going through that process today. Along the way, just so for quick logistics, this is a 30-minute presentation. Might go a little quicker, might go a little shorter based upon the questions. All the phone lines are muted, so please, please, please use the questions and answers feature or the questions features within GoToMeet or GoToWebinar. We'll be monitoring those throughout the presentation and be answering those out loud, or we might respond back privately based upon the type of question it is. Also, if you want to copy the presentation when we're done, please let us know, and just put your email address in there and we'll send you a copy of the PowerPoint when we are done with this. Last thing, just before we jump into ACH, Sage Intacct 2022 R2, so that's release number 2 of this year, is being released tomorrow night, actually at 8 p.m. Pacific time. So what does that mean for everyone? First of all, at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, please make sure you're out of the system. You'll get a notice. Please log out, and the system will be unavailable for the next several hours as they perform the upgrade on everyone. There are some really cool new features in there, specifically, there's throughout the system, but there are some good construction add-ons, redoing the way that contracts are being done, moving that from order entry up to the project/jobs module based upon what you call it. So make sure that you talk to your implementer and talk to your team about how that impacts you. We will be holding a webinar next Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, just so that everyone knows, to go over all the new features in the R2 release. We'll be having one of our consultants going over that, all the new features then. Also, we do have a blog out there that goes over all the changes. If you go out to our website, ETHOSystems.com/blog, and you'll see the blog on all the changes they made into that release. So please, if you have any questions regarding that, training, we've got some training coming up. So hopefully you can take advantage of all the new stuff that's coming in the new 2022 R2 release. So we're excited about that. So what is ACH? So I know a lot of you know what ACH is, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So basically what we're doing is that everything is being done through a clearinghouse. So, you know, you send over the account numbers and you register the account number and the routing numbers that goes to your corresponding to your bank, which then creates the files and sends it over to your vendors, basically. ACH stands for Automated Clearinghouse. The nice thing is that it is a standard. Now, even though it's a standard, a national banking standard, some banks handle it differently. Let's be very transparent there. So we have seen certain banks say, hey, I want to make this change, or I want to make that change to the file. So when you're setting up ACH with any system, it is important that you go through the testing processes there. And, you know, you also might hear it other ways, such as direct deposit, electronic payment, bill payment, or online bill pay. Those are all just using ACH behind the scenes. So just keep that in mind that, you know, ACH is, you know, sometimes driven by this process. Sometimes there's a web interface because banks have made it nicer. But overall, it's a standardized way of moving monies from one system to another. With Sage Intacct, what we will do is that we will create the ACH file and then it's your responsibility to transmit that to the bank. Usually most banks have a portal that you will log into and upload that ACH file. The last thing that I'll say on the ACH file is that every once in a while, again, some banks or some customers want certain changes to it, like, for example, additional detail lines to kind of explain what they're paying, things like that. So again, doing a test transaction, understanding what your bank requirements are, things like that are going to be really, really important. So what I'm going to do is take you through the process here, the steps of setting that up within Sage Intacct, and make sure that you're prepared when you talk to a consultant to have everything ready to go at that point. So step number one, and I believe these are all important. I was about to say the most important, but step number one is contact your bank and get the ACH payment specification sheet. That's going to give you all the information of what that file layout needs to be. It gives us a lot of specific pieces of information. So that's going to be your first step. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go into Sage Intacct and configure the bank configuration. Now, where that is done is that if we go into into Sage Intacct here, and we go to cash management, you'll see that there's a option under setup. So if you're in all, go to setup, and you'll see this ACH bank configurations down here. Once you're in that screen, you'll have to enter this information in here. So the first thing is the ACH bank ID. This is a unique identifier of your bank. So you can't make that up. That comes from your bank immediately. The intermediate destination name. Now, anything with an asterisk is not required, but it might be for Sage Intacct, but it might be required for your bank. So again, always keep that in mind that it might be for your bank. Also, banks do change names. So this is something that when you're talking to your bank, if you're dealing with a credit union or something that's been recently acquired, it might have a different name. So again, make sure you get that name exactly how it is from the bank. I have seen it where capitalization is important. So again, just make sure you get that. And then you'll have your intermediate destination ID. This is your bank's routing number at that point. Continuing on, the origin name, your company name. So anything with origin is you. This is your name. So your company name provided by the bank. So again, if you have a unique name with the bank that's different from the name of your company, or it's spelled differently, make sure you get that at that point. You should have a 10-digit company number provided by your bank. So this is an origin ID. This is not, sometimes this is not your bank account number. So again, that's important to get that ID number, the 10-digit company ID from your bank. Reference code, this is provided by the bank. Most of the time I've seen this left blank. And then I didn't leave this on here. Your status is either active or inactive. So if you set this up and decide that you're not using that bank, you can always mark this as inactive. And then there's something called an EOF, end of file marker. And again, you need a carriage return at the end of it. Again, it should be a standardized, but that's one of the flags that you turn on and turn off. So that's going to be in the ACH configuration aspect. So once you get that information there, if I go back to my ACH configuration here, you'll see that I just created bluntly a very generic test one here. So you would see it in here. I created mine as test bank and filled out the information just like we have here. Now again, the ACH bank ID, once you've set that, it is locked in, so you cannot change that afterwards. So just keep that in mind. So that's the ID that you use permanently moving forward. Once this is all set up at this point here, the third step is to fill out, sorry, I thought I filled that. That's the information you need, so fill that out. Fill the ACH information out. Sorry, I missed this. I should have combined those two steps together. So the next step that we want to do at that point is that we want to go into our checking information. Now, This is not applied to savings accounts. So you'll see that this is this is only for checking accounts, not savings accounts. And basically what you'll do is that you'll go in and you'll fill in the information. So I'm going to show you on the screen here where you would do that. So if I go into checking here at this point, and you can see I've got a couple different checking accounts. At that point, I'm just going to choose this one here at this point here. You would go to the Bank File tab here at this point here, enable ACH, and then you would choose this. You choose your test bank, the what you had set over there. Notice that it did bring in everything automatically. You can. There's something you can override this. We do not recommend doing that. Sometimes you have to, but again, we don't recommend this. This comes over automatically from your setup at that point. So once you have the ACH configured, then you come into here and you can configure, you associate the ACH to the checking account that you have. So if you have multiple checking accounts with one bank, you might only have to set that up once because again, this is just that your financial institute, the originating financial institution, and your identification number. If you have multiple banks, then you will have to set up multiple ACH configurations at that point. Any questions so far regarding this? I'm just going to make sure there's no questions in the chat. Don't see any, so perfect. So once we have that configured at this point here, what the next step to do is that setting up each vendor for the ACH. Now, what you're going to do is that you're going to go into the vendor and you're going to do make a couple different changes here. And I'm just going to show it to you instead of reading off the PowerPoint here. So what you do is you go to accounts payable, go to my vendors at this point here. Sure, leave. I didn't save anything. And I'm going to pick a vendor here, A1 Electric Company. And first thing that I want to do here is under my payment information, we always recommend that you fill this in. So how are you normally paying them? By check, credit card, transfer, cash, or ACH. This just allows it to make sure it defaults properly. We do recommend you setting this on. So I'm going to set this one to ACH Bank at this point here. And then what you do is you come to the bank file and you say enable ACH payments. Now, underneath here, this is where you would enter their routing number, their account number, and then most importantly, you do need to find out is that if it's a checking account or savings account. So again, you can't send from a savings account, but you can send into a savings account. So keep that in mind there. So can't send from a savings, but you can send to a savings. And then once you have the account, you need to understand what type of account this is. So a lot of times what we recommend is that if you're going to have this set up with a vendor, have a little checklist, or a little form that they fill out. That way, if they don't get it, if there's a problem with it, you've covered yourself. So there's two types of business accounts, CTX and CCD. Depending upon the way that bank is configured, I can't give you the hard and fast rule, but most of the time we see it's CTX. But again, I would recommend making sure each vendor has to provide that to you. And then if it's a personal, someone like you're paying through ACH, like example, an employee or a subcontractor that's maybe just an individual that's doing work for you, make sure you click on that personal PPD for that type of account there. So again, those are the account classifications you need to worry about when you're setting up a vendor at that point. Sorry, too many screens open there. So make sure you do that. One of the nice tips here is that we've talked about this, and then this information can be imported into the system. So one of the things you can do within Sage Intacct is that if you come back to your main list here, and I'm not going to save my changes here, and we do export here, one of the classes we've talked about was imports. Carol did that for us. And if you want that YouTube video, or that video is up on YouTube, and it's also on our website, ETHOSystems.com/blog. You can see that video on importing. But one of the things you do is that in some screens here, what you do is you can come to the little drop down here. Now, you can, the first thing you would do is that you would export out. So when you click on export, you click on CSV for import. This will get you your vendors and everything so that you can re-import the information, or more importantly, update the information for that vendor. So you would export out CSV for import. Then what you would do is that you would fill in the information and then click on the import to import those changed records into the system. Some of these screens have it. So again, you'll see under vendors, we have the ability to export and then import. Same thing for customers, for example. So again, export and then import. There are other screens such as, we'll just go into my jobs and go into my jobs, for example, and under here, you'll notice that it's not there. So if you don't see that option there, that means you cannot update records. You can only insert new records. So luckily you can do that with vendors. And so it's a great way, again, getting that information. I do recommend, since you do have everyone's routing number and bank account number, that when you're done with that file, you probably want to lock it, delete it, clear it out. Again, for safety purposes, it's not good to have all those account numbers and routing numbers laying around. So you would get all those imported in. Now, what we recommend doing is generating a test file. I've seen everything in the world. So, for example, some people, they'll set up a check for $1 to a vendor. I've seen them do it for themselves. They set themselves up as a vendor in the system. Use it like for $1 or something. But you want to generate a test system, and you want to check with your bank on how they want to test that ACH. Every bank is different, and that applies to even if you're doing MICR checks. Every bank wants to test it differently. So make sure you send the ACH file to your bank. Again, we'll create the ACH file for you, but we do not send it for you. So that's your job, is to go log into the portal once that ACH file is generated and do that. The other thing that we always find that people sometimes do is that they'll open up the ACH file in Excel or in like Word or something like that, and it will lose its formatting. Normally, you don't need to open up that ACH file. But if you do, the best product out there to open it with, which is free of charge, is Notepad. That way you open it up, you can see it. Again, we don't recommend making any, saving it or making any changes directly in there, because there are checksums in there, and there's the way it handles decimal spots, it handles things a little bit differently. But if you do want to open it up, make sure you use Notepad. Don't use any other products out there. And if you want to use a better product like Notepad++, which is a shareware version of Notepad, it has more features, you can open up with that. But again, don't open up with Excel, things like that. And then once you're done there, what you'll do is you'll generate the ACH file, send that to your bank. Once you're good with that part, that's when you would then start doing your normal check run. So at that point, when you go into paying your checks at that point, then, so when we go into accounts payable and we say pay bills at this point here, what's nice is that you'll come down here, and this is why, again, I love this feature. Make sure you choose ACH payments. It will show you all the bills at that point that are due by ACH based upon the filter that you have up here. At that point, and then you can add you can pay those, add them to your outbox, things like that. So there are a couple of things you can definitely do regarding that process. Question came in regarding changing if your bank it doesn't have the standard format. So there are changes we can make to the file. We could also work with Sage Intacct support to get the file changed to the way we need, but hopefully they can use that standardized format. Again, getting that specification format from your bank early on in the process and giving that to your implementer or giving that to your consultant is really, really important. And the last question is the system keeps, so you can do a copy of the ACH file. What I always like to do afterwards is that the file is in there, but I always make sure that, for example, I always make sure that I keep a copy of that ACH file at that point. So, I do recommend keeping that ACH file as a backup always in the system. Good questions there. Perfect. Don't have many other questions to ask. So what I'm going to do is that if there's any other questions, please let us know. Just again, last couple things. We have the 2022 R2 release next week. And then next month, we are doing another webinar. Next month, we'll be on setting up sales tax within Sage Intacct. So we'll be doing a sales tax webinar talking about the different features within there. I'm going to keep it going here on the questions. I do not see anything. So at this point here, I want to welcome it. Went a little bit faster than I planned, but it was a good webinar today. If there's anything you need, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, have a great day, and you guys got back a few extra minutes of your day. Take care.